There's a strange kind of silence that follows the end of a movie, a moment when the screen fades to black and the audience absorbs what just happened. But what if that ending wasn't the one the filmmakers intended? What if something crucial, something devastating, was removed at the last second? For decades, fans of action cinema have whispered about endings that once existed but were quietly replaced. A protagonist who originally died, a villain who escaped justice, a final shot that cast the entire story in a darker light. These weren't just rumors. In many cases, these alternate conclusions were filmed, screened, and then erased. Studios blamed test audiences. Some claimed the footage was too bleak, too controversial, or simply didn't test well. But behind these sanitized endings lies a hidden archive of what might have been final scenes that didn't just change the tone, but altered the entire meaning of the film. Scenes that could have turned cult classics into tragedies, that could have sparked outrage or admiration. Tonight, we reopen those sealed vaults. We're counting down 15 action films with missing final scenes endings that were filmed, rumored, or once existed, but have since disappeared. These aren't just cuts left on the editing room floor. They're fragments of a cinematic reality that was rewritten sometimes by fear, sometimes by force. And by the end of this video, you may find yourself wondering, what if the version we know was never meant to be seen? Fact has shown. Nighthawks, 1981. The ending Stallone wanted you to forget. In the gritty underworld of Nighthawks, Sylvester Stallone played one of his most grounded roles. A New York cop haunted by terrorism, political gray zones, and inner decay. But few realize that the film originally ended in a way that would have shocked fans of traditional action heroes by killing Stallone's character. The original script and even early versions shown during test screenings had Stallone's detective Deke Da Silva sacrificing himself in the final confrontation with the terrorist played by Rutger Hauer. It was meant to be a bitter, haunting commentary on the cost of fighting shadows. A death that meant something. But then came the interference. Universal Studios reportedly panicked, killing off Stallone just months after Rocky II and before First Blood felt like box office suicide. The ending was quickly rewritten. In the final cut, Da Silva survives. He wins. The audience breathes easy. But something essential was lost. For years, rumors swirled that alternate endings had been shot. Rutger Hauer himself hinted in interviews that the final showdown had multiple versions, including one where the hero doesn't walk away. Yet none of those scenes have resurfaced. The darker ending? Gone. The sacrifice? Vanished. Was this just studio caution, or a calculated rewrite of cinematic legacy? Fact. 2. Black Sunday, 1977, the political ending that disappeared. Black Sunday was bold even by 1972 standards, a terrorist plot to bomb the Super Bowl, a storyline steeped in Middle Eastern politics, and a tone of cold inevitability. But its original ending? Too bleak even for a decade defined by paranoia. Director John Frankenheimer's first cut reportedly featured a final act in which the terrorist plot partially succeeds, killing key political figures and causing public panic. The attack wasn't fully stopped. The message was clear. In the real world, heroes don't always arrive in time. Test audiences were shaken. Paramount executives were terrified. In a move that Frankenheimer resented for the rest of his life, the ending was reshot. Now, in the released version, the heroes intercept the threat just in time, and the nation is saved. Clean, cathartic, sanitized. But for decades, cinephiles have wondered, what if that original ending had made it to theaters? Would the film be seen not just as a thriller, but a chilling prophecy? To this day, no footage of the original ending has ever emerged. Just notes, storyboards, and the haunted recollections of a director who knew he'd been forced to soften a story that was meant to leave scars. Do we remember Black Sunday as it was, or as it was allowed to be? FACT-3, The Killer Elite, 1975. The ending that made too many people uncomfortable. Sam Peckinpah was no stranger to controversy. Known for his operatic violence and nihilistic tone, his 1975 film The Killer Elite originally had an ending that was less heroic and more hauntingly ambiguous. In the first cut, the final showdown ends not in a clear victory, but in a moment of doubt. The protagonists walk away not triumphant, but damaged, broken, uncertain. It was a conclusion that reflected the moral rot of Cold War espionage and the thin line between mercenary and patriot. But test screenings told a different story. Viewers were confused. The studio, United Artists, demanded clarity. So the ending was trimmed, restructured, and reshot. The ambiguity was replaced with a more traditional payoff, a final moment that hinted at justice rather than existential ruin. Film historians have noted the tonal dissonance in the final product, how the ending seems oddly clean compared to the film's gritty setup. That's because it wasn't the ending Peckinpah shot. That one? Gone, buried beneath studio mandates and marketing concerns. A few scripts and production notes remain, but no known footage of the original climax has survived. The true conclusion of The Killer Elite lives only in whispers. So was the final cut justice? Or just another casualty of commercial censorship? Fact-4. Race with the Devil, 1975. The missing frames that changed the ritual. Race with the Devil was never meant to be just another road thriller. It was an occult-infused chase film, with two couples pursued by a satanic cult through the American Southwest. The ending, in its final cut, delivers a shocking twist, but it's the version we never saw that continues to haunt genre fans. According to editor Frank Mazzola, the original ending included several extra shots, brief but disturbing, showing cult members already waiting for the protagonists at their destination, smiling knowingly. The implication? The entire route had been a trap. There was no escape, but those shots were removed. 20th Century Fox, concerned about the film's already heavy tone and the rising influence of Christian watchdog groups, demanded a less fatalistic finale. The cut we now see ends abruptly with the cult encircling the RV, but without those damning final frames. The sense of inevitable doom is muted. What's eerie is that those frames existed. Crew members confirm they were spliced into early reels, but they've since vanished. The negatives? Lost. Or, some claim, deliberately destroyed. So did Race with the Devil once offer a pure nihilist horror ending, before fear of backlash drove it underground? Fact-5. Dead Bang 1989. The ending that was too racially explosive. Starring Don Johnson as a cop pursuing a white supremacist militia, Dead Bang pushed boundaries in 1989. But the ending we got where justice prevails and evil is defeated wasn't the film's original message. Early cuts reportedly ended with Johnson's character discovering that the conspiracy reaches deeper into law enforcement than expected. In this version, the final scene doesn't end with an arrest, but with a senior officer quietly shutting the case down. It was bleak, political, and damning. Warner Brothers balked. Fearing controversy, they demanded a rewrite. The final cut shows the militia dismantled and justice served, no questions asked. Clean. Hollywood safe. What's more chilling is that the alternate ending was confirmed by multiple sources involved in production. Even the film's writer, Robert Foster, alluded to studio discomfort with the implications in a 1994 interview. That version of the ending? Gone. Not even included in DVD extras or anniversary retrospectives. As if it never existed. Was Dead Bang meant to expose something deeper before being silenced by the very forces it criticized? Fact. 6. Executive decision. 1990. When the hero wasn't supposed to survive. Kurt Russell may be the hero in Executive Decision, but the film is perhaps best remembered for something else. The shocking death of Steven Seagal's character mid-mission. It was bold, subversive, and it almost went even further. Early script drafts and, according to insiders, even a test cut ended with Kurt Russell's character also dying, sacrificing himself to stop the bomb. It would have completed a full-circle arc of unexpected heroism and real-world stakes. But Warner Brothers intervened. With test audiences already stunned by Seagal's early exit, the studio feared losing their second star. The final scenes were rewritten. Russell survives. The day is saved. The crowd exhales. Director Stuart Baird later admitted in an interview that they considered a darker ending, but it didn't test well. To this day, no footage of the alternate version has surfaced, though a few rough cuts were allegedly screened for internal review. It begs the question, how different would Executive Decision be remembered if both leads had died for the mission? Would it be seen as a rare, courageous move, or a miscalculation Hollywood wasn't ready to commit to? Fact #7. The Long Kiss, Goodnight, 1996. The ending that reawakened the assassin. In The Long Kiss Goodnight, Gina Davis plays a suburban mom who slowly uncovers her past as a government assassin. By the film's explosive finale, she's reclaimed her identity only to seemingly walk away from violence for good. But early test audiences saw something different. According to insiders, an alternate ending had Davis's character receiving a mysterious call during the closing scene, one that suggests she's being activated again. No explanation. Just a shot of her picking up the phone, and her expression turning cold. The implication? Samantha Cain hadn't left her old life behind. She'd just been waiting. Director Renny Harlin later confirmed the existence of this ending in a rare 2005 interview, calling it a nod to the idea that once you become a weapon, you never stop being one. But studio executives feared it would alienate viewers, hoping for closure or worse. Derail Gina Davis's public image as a rising feminist icon. The final version dropped the call entirely. Samantha is left smiling in the sun, her past supposedly behind her. But that original cut? It was shown at least once. Bootleg versions have surfaced at film conventions, but no official release has acknowledged its existence. Was the assassin ever truly gone, or just waiting for the right trigger? Fact. Awesome. Cobra 1986. The ending Stallone rewrote in his own blood. Cobra was a brutally sleek vehicle for Sylvester Stallone, part slasher, part cop thriller, all attitude. But what many don't know is that Stallone himself took a knife to the film's original ending. In the initial version, Cobra doesn't just survive, he loses. Not in a dramatic death, but in the realization that the system he fought for is irredeemably broken. The film was to end on a grim note. The cult isn't defeated, only scattered. Cobra walks away, not victorious, but disillusioned. This version reportedly tested poorly with audiences expecting a power fantasy. Stallone, who had full creative control, restructured the climax, removing scenes of judicial failure and existential doubt. The released version gives viewers a clean win. Villain dead. Girl saved. Cobra rides into the sunset. But the remnants of that original ending linger. Still photos, storyboard panels, and a few alternate takes exist, but no complete cut has ever surfaced. Warner Brothers has never acknowledged it. Was Cobra once a cynical deconstruction of the action hero before being reshaped into the very myth it set out to critique? 9. Lockup, 1989. The ending that tried to indict the prison system. Lockup was marketed as a redemption story. Stallone as a model prisoner fighting against a corrupt warden. But buried beneath its prison break theatrics was a version that took a much harsher stance. The original ending didn't see Frank Leone walking free. Instead, it ended with him being transferred silently, ominously, to another maximum security prison. No vindication, no triumph, just the cycle continuing. A clear commentary on systemic injustice. TriStar Pictures rejected it outright. Studio memos later revealed concerns about dampening audience satisfaction. They wanted a crowd pleaser, not a prison expose. The ending was rewritten, reshot, and repackaged. In the version we know, Leone testifies against the warden and is set free, a fist-pumping, cheer for the underdog finale. But that earlier cut? It was real. In 2011, a former assistant editor revealed they had stored reels marked Alt Final in the TriStar archive. But when requested for a retrospective Blu-ray release, they had gone missing. Did Stallone's character ever truly escape, or was the real message left behind bars? Fact Shabak Wahdisfer. Broken Arrow 1996. The death scene. That was too hopeless. John Woo's Broken Arrow was marketed as a high-stakes action flick, pitting John Travolta against Christian Slater in a battle over stolen nukes. But in its original ending, the stakes were more than just explosive, they were existential. An early version reportedly concluded with both leads dying, Travolta's villain vaporized in the blast, and Slater's character sacrificing himself to stop it. It was meant to underscore the idea that war leaves no survivors, only consequences. But that tone didn't sit well with 20th Century Fox. Executives feared a no-win ending would hurt box office appeal, especially with two rising stars. The climax was reshot to give Slater a last-second escape and a romantic closure with the female lead. It was heroic, uplifting, but undeniably safer. Director John Woo, known for his operatic tragedies, allegedly pushed back hard. He envisioned Broken Arrow as a spiritual cousin to his Hong Kong work, where sacrifice meant something. The studio disagreed. Though script drafts and set reports confirm the alternate ending, no footage has surfaced. It's as if the original concept was nuked along with its characters. Would Broken Arrow have been remembered as Woo's most tragic American film if the studio hadn't flinched? Fact Hajan 1. Death Wish. V. The Face of Death. 1994. The finale that made Charles Bronson too human. By the fifth Death Wish film, Charles Bronson had long stopped being just a vigilante, he'd become an unstoppable urban myth. But the original ending for Death Wish V tried to bring him back down to earth, and it didn't survive. In that version, Bronson's Paul Kersey confronts the final villain, but instead of delivering his usual execution-style justice, he hesitates. The man begs. Kersey lowers the gun. It's a moment of mercy, even regret. Then Kersey is shot. Mortally wounded, he dies in silence. The studio response? Absolute rejection. Producers deemed it completely unmarketable. After 4 films of cathartic violence, they believed audiences wouldn't accept Kersey faltering, let alone dying. The scene was reshot. Now, Kersey wins again. No hesitation, no vulnerability, and most importantly, he walks away. Yet early promotional materials and shooting schedules list alternate ending, Kersey falls. Some fans even claim to have seen a VHS test screener in the 90 seconds featuring the death scene. No copy has been verified. Was Bronson's swan song meant to be an ending? Or an exorcism? F.A. Sacked Hazan 2. Southern Comfort. 1981. The ending that questioned who the real enemy was. Walter Hill's Southern Comfort follows a group of National Guardsmen lost in the Louisiana bayou, hunted by locals after a cultural misunderstanding turns deadly. The final film ends with the surviving soldiers stumbling into a Cajun village, where they're welcomed and the nightmare ends. But not originally. The film's first cut reportedly included a final shot of military helicopters arriving moments later, with armed soldiers disembarking and rounding up the villagers, implying that the U.S. military viewed everyone in the region as a threat. It was damning, politically charged, and completely erased. Studio execs feared comparisons to Vietnam were too direct. With the war still fresh in American memory, the idea that the U.S. military might be the aggressor was deemed unacceptable. The scene was cut. The ending softened. Walter Hill has remained vague about it. In interviews, he's neither confirmed nor denied the scene existed, but multiple crew members reference the helicopters as part of the original storyboards. To this day, the final sequence feels oddly truncated. The paranoia evaporates, the critique dissolves, and the audience is left with relief rather than reckoning. What kind of message was Southern Comfort truly meant to leave behind? Fact 33rd. Rolling Thunder. 1977. The ending. That was too brutal to process. Rolling Thunder is often cited as a key influence on Quentin Tarantino's style, bleak, brooding, and built around a shattered veteran's thirst for revenge. But even Tarantino has mentioned that Rolling Thunder once had an ending so raw it couldn't survive the studio system. In the original cut, Major Charles Rain completes his bloody rampage, but instead of finding peace or redemption, he sits alone in a hotel room, weaponless, drenched in blood, staring into nothing. No epilogue. No salvation, just silence. The scene reportedly included no music, no closing credits, just the sound of distant traffic and his slow, unblinking breath. It was meant to show that violence had consumed him entirely. There was no coming back. 20th Century Fox rejected the scene outright. Test audiences walked out in stunned silence. A new ending was filmed, one that implied catharsis, camaraderie, and closure. The blood was still there, but the existential void was scrubbed away. Though the original ending was confirmed by screenwriter Paul Schrader himself, no known footage exists today. Only fragments of script pages and conflicting accounts from editors. Was Rolling Thunder a tale of justice, or a warning about becoming the very monster you hunt? Fact 40. Red Scorpion, 1988. The ending that triggered a geopolitical panic. Red Scorpion, starring Dolph Lundgren, was always a strange creature, an American-funded, South African-shot Cold War action piece that tried to spin a Soviet defector into a Rambo-esque hero. But the ending it almost had could have rewritten its legacy and sparked international backlash. Early reports suggest that the original conclusion involved a real-world political montage, showing actual footage of Soviet military crackdowns across Eastern Europe, overlaid with Lundgren's character giving a monologue about freedom and oppression. The message was clear. This isn't fiction. But when early cuts were screened for international distributors, particularly in Europe and Africa, the pushback was swift. Soviet sympathizers threatened boycotts. Some claimed the film constituted state propaganda. The ending was deemed too incendiary. Producers quickly cut the footage and replaced the final scene with a quieter resolution, a handshake, a symbolic flag, and the fade-out of a fictional revolution. That montage? Never released. The tapes were allegedly destroyed to avoid future licensing complications. Was Red Scorpion trying to be an action film, or a political weapon disguised as one? Fact 5. The Gauntlet 1977. The ending that nearly got Clint Eastwood blacklisted. Directed by and starring Clint Eastwood, The Gauntlet is a story of one cop versus a corrupt system. Bullets fly, buildings fall, and somehow, Eastwood survives it all. But in the version almost no one saw he didn't. According to early production documents, Eastwood's character was supposed to die on the courthouse steps, gunned down after exposing corruption inside the police department. The final image? A press camera capturing his death followed by silence. Eastwood, ever the renegade, was allegedly in favor of this ending. He saw it as a sacrifice that meant something. But Warner Brothers was livid. Killing off Eastwood's character in a political blaze of glory would risk alienating conservative audiences and tarnish his action hero persona. The ending was rewritten, reshot. Now, Eastwood survives, the corrupt officials are arrested, and the public cheers. It plays like justice won, but for decades, whispers of the original shoot persisted. Still photographers have shared outtakes that appear to show Eastwood bloodied, lying on the steps. No one in the studio has ever confirmed the alternate cut. It simply vanished. Did the studio save his legacy, or erase his boldest narrative choice? Bonus fact: the silent ending of Out for Justice. 1991. The scene that Seagal claimed was buried. Steven Seagal has made many bold claims about his career, but one of the strangest involves an alternate ending to Out for Justice. According to Seagal, the film originally ended not with a brutal street fight, but with his character walking away discarding his badge in the East River, silently leaving law enforcement behind. In a 1997 interview, he claimed this scene was philosophical, meant to show disillusionment with systemic failure. But Warner Bros. Allegedly cut it, saying it made him look weak. They wanted vengeance, not reflection. What's odd is that multiple crew members back him up. One lighting technician stated that a dawn shoot along the river was completed and printed, but mysteriously omitted from all releases. No deleted scenes, no director's cut, just gone. It may not have changed the whole film, but it changed what his character meant. Was Seagal's tough guy image protected at the cost of the only time he showed restraint? These weren't just alternate endings, they were alternate truths. Versions of films that challenged the myth of the action hero, questioned the system, or dared to end in silence. But studios blinked. Test audiences recoiled. And so, these endings were buried, sometimes literally. Which one shocked you the most? Do you think any of these lost conclusions would have changed how we remember the films today? Let us know in the comments. And if you're the kind of viewer who believes the story isn't over until the real ending surfaces, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover more cinematic mysteries that never made it to the screen.